Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. The other day, I was at work on my lunch trying to kill those last few minutes of the hour before I was able to clock in from work. I think we've all been there before, basically where you walk up to the time clock just a little bit too early. So I was sort of sitting there and I was flipping through some magazines. I honestly thought that cover of The Shield was the last episode or the last issue of WWE Magazine that WWE was going to be producing. But little to my surprise, there was a WrestleMania 31 preview magazine sitting there with the whole cast of WWE there on the cover. So I was flipping through it, and it had a good few pages of pictures and a little bit of a blurb about every WrestleMania. Honestly, it was almost like a little bit of the WrestleMania book that came out earlier this year, just put in magazine form. If you flip through the back, though, it had the big players, almost like a WWE program would have. A little bit of, it would show a guy and it'd show everything they went through. And then once you got to the back, it had the last few pages for the WWE Hall of Fame. There was a big spread on the Macho Man Randy Savage. Then, a little to my surprise, was a spread for Kevin Nash, saying that he was going into the Hall of Fame this year, and it was going to be a big thing where he was put in by Shawn Michaels. And I was like, wow, here it is in magazine right there. And it hasn't even been announced on television yet. I know that when Kevin Nash had his dust up with the law, his horrible Christmas that he had with his family, that it's sort of all been settled out now. All the charges that were filed against him had all been dropped, and it's all scot-free. It just sucks that TMZ ran his name through the mud, and wrestling dirt sheets all jumped on. People were coming to their own conclusions, thinking that Kevin Nash had choke slammed his son during a fight, but it is what it is. Kevin Nash, honestly, to me, I'm not going to say he's one of my favorite wrestlers, but he was a guy that was the man. I mean, when I watched, when he came in to be Shawn Michaels' bodyguard, that was the first time that I ever noticed Kevin Nash as a wrestler. He came in as Diesel, and he was the backup. I think by this point, I think Shawn and Sid had already split. So basically that's why Diesel came in to be Shawn's new backup guy. And I didn't really think that anything was ever going to come of it. When Sid was Shawn Michaels' bodyguard, he'd already had a run in WWE. He'd already been a main eventer of WrestleMania. So you knew that there was more to come than this story, than him just standing in the corner for Shawn the whole time. I'd watched this guy in WCW, but I had missed Kevin Nash as Oz, or was he the Master Blaster or something like that? Some horrible gimmick. Vinny Vegas, I think it was another one that he had there in WCW. So I had missed all that. I didn't know about it. So I just thought this guy coming in, and the way he shot up through the ranks, becoming the dudes with attitudes, and he had the feud with Shawn, where basically he was starting to overshadow Shawn, and Shawn dumped him out of the Royal Rumble, where he did the run over like, I'm going to save you, but you can clearly see that he grabbed the guy's boot and helped push him over the top, because he didn't want to share the limelight with Diesel, even though he was on his team. He knew if it came down to it at the end, and it was Diesel and Shawn, there was no way in the world he was going to beat him. And that was sort of like the storyline that they built up, that they were a team, but the Diesel was slowly starting to inch away and become a bigger and better superstar. And when he beat Bob Backlund in that record-breaking Madison Square Garden house show thing, it sort of added to the mystique of Diesel for me, about how cool this guy was. And back in the day, it was different than today, because you're a kid, you just sort of believe what they tell you. Kevin Nash is a wrestler, but he's not a wrestler. He's not the guys that you gravitate towards, like Tito Santana or Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Daniel Bryan, the guys that really wrestle. He's just the guy that's there because of his big size, and he gets beat up like everybody else does. But I don't know. I always loved Kevin Nash. When Nash He's probably most going to be known for his NWO days when he left WWE to go wrestle for WCW, which started the big Monday Night War. With the NWO with him and Scott coming in, and as somebody who was watching at that time, it really felt like it was an invasion. You knew that's not why they were there, but you wanted to believe that that's why they were there. As a kid, I was 95, I was 14. I honestly don't even think I had like full-time use of the internet yet. I think we had Prodigy, if anybody knows what that was. We had a Prodigy account at school. But I don't think I was looking up wrestling headlines or NoDQ.com. I definitely didn't have a Wrestling Observer account yet. So I didn't know, but I knew. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way in the world that they were going to be able to pull that off. But that's definitely what they were portraying. And I understand that, when Kevin Nash gets named for the WWE Hall of Fame, it's going to be a lot like with Scott Hall. When you look at Scott Hall, you want to call him Scott Hall. There are a lot of big Razor Ramon fans from back in the day. When you look at Kevin Nash, you want to call him Kevin Nash. But, Vince has a plan, and it is going to work. You induct these guys as their WWF personas, and then when depth starts dying down, as of right now, Vince and Triple H are two guys, in leadership roles. They're probably not going to get put into the WWE Hall of Fame until WWE really gets backed into a bind. I don't think that they want to put themselves over. I think it's going to put more negative light on them than it is positive light, even though they've done a ton. But you've got The Rock, you've got The Undertaker, and, then slowly guys are going to start retiring. You're going to have to start debating if you think Batista's ever going to come back and wrestle or if he's going to be a big movie star. So you have to start debating, are you going to put Batista into the WWE Hall of Fame? And then, I think that Cena, Orton, definitely guys at the top of the card right now, definitely a long enough time that where there's going to be a gap when you really have to start thinking who is going to headline this year's WrestleMania Hall of Fame. And, everybody's been clamoring for, the NWO to go in. We had the Four Horsemen inducted. That sort of made, Tully Blanchard. It made Arn Anderson, Hall of Famers, and they got their rings. Even though they should have gone into singles, it sort of lumped them in together at WrestleMania 28. It made Ric Flair a two-time Hall of Famer. And I don't think that they want to take that away from Rick. I think that he has pride in being a two-time WWE Hall of Famer. And I think if you start putting groups in there, such as the NWO, it makes Hulk Hogan a two-time Hall of Famer as well, which is a great accomplishment to him to add him to the Ric Flair Club. But then at the same time, Razor Ramon, Scott Hall become a two-time Hall of Famer. And I'm not trying to say that he's not in the same class. Scott Hall is not in the same class as Flair and Hogan, but he's not in the same class, and that's the same thing it's going to be for Diesel and Kevin Nash. So you put him in as one persona, and then you're going to have to bring him back, and you put him in there as another one, and then maybe you can sort of clear up saying that it's not the same guy. It's an argument to be made, but it is what it is. But WrestleMania 34, WrestleMania 35, we're going to be looking for headliners. I can already look at this year's WrestleMania class. Macho Man Randy Savage, Kevin Nash, two guys at the top of the list. Macho Man Randy Savage's induction isn't going to be what it should have been. I think that Hulk Hogan's going to give a good speech. I think his brother's going to follow it up. But if there was any way in the world Vince, Macho Man could have came to some agreement years in the past when the dude was still alive, it would be a bigger, badder moment than it really is. Diesel going into the Hall of Fame, he'll more than likely pick Shawn Michaels to give his induction speech. I'm thinking, what is the cool thing you can do? WrestleMania 28, you had Shawn Michaels as the headliner going to the Hall of Fame. No, I apologize, that was WrestleMania 27. In Atlanta, he went into the Hall of Fame. I apologize. 28 is where Edge went in. But, they brought all of the Click out for the big, Click moment. And, there was no Scott Hall. And then, last year when Scott comes out, they do the big, Click moment where they all come out and they're all together. So we've seen them all, reenact the Click thing not once but twice. And, are they really going to do that again and just keep plugging on it. I know these groups are friends, and they're some of the biggest names in wrestling. But with a show like the Hall of Fame, you need to make it bigger, you need to make it better. I don't know if that means you call Just Incredible and ask him to be there or something like that. I think it would be cool just to see Diesel and Shawn do the Dudes with Attitude high five one more time, and then Shawn having to jump up to give Kevin Nash the big high five. That's personally a big moment that I would like to see. Nash is definitely a guy that deserves to go into the Hall of Fame, and I'm glad for it. But when you look at the rest of this class, with Rikishi, with Medusa, it just doesn't scream the best class of all time. Last year, even though the names that went in weren't my favorite names of all time, Jake the Snake Roberts gave a damn good speech. Scott Hall's speech, ending up with, bad guys finish on top or whatever it was, that was awesome. Honestly, the Ultimate Warrior speech put me to sleep a little bit, but that's mostly because of it, being a dark atmosphere. The first time you're really sitting down for a long period of time. You're not really streaming and cheering for a wrestling match. So I think I fell asleep, honestly, 3 times, and Miguel and Justin kept me awake throughout that. Got up out of my seat that night, and we went hard until, I don't know, probably 3 in the morning, kicking it and doing what we do WrestleMania weekend, eating pizza and watching WCW. But I don't know. I can honestly tell you this year's Hall of Fame, no matter who the headliner is, 7:15, I'm going to be walking out of that arena. I'm going to be jumping on that bus, and I'm going to be heading over to WrestleCon to watch that wrestling show, which I think is honestly going to be one of the biggest things about the whole weekend that I'm really, really pumped up for. You get an awesome main event. Rob Van Dam and Sabu teaming up against the Hardys. The Dudley Boys are going to be wrestling. James Storm just got added to the show. There's a 5-on-5 Survivor Series tag match, which is going to be headlined by Chris Hero versus Colt Cabana. ACH, I believe, is wrestling against John Morrison. Morrison's a guy that I really like, and I'm really pumped to see him. So those are my WrestleMania plans. I am pumped. Monday, we should honestly get the Kevin Nash announcement on Raw. So I am really pumped for that. It is going to be an awesome moment. I remember Grim here on YouTube. He filmed himself during the Razor Ramon announcement, and he was really pumped up. Razor Ramon, he wears the shirt when he dresses up as Ebenezer, and you could tell that he really is a fan, and he really wanted Razor to get that moment in the sun. And Razor and Jake the Snake Roberts last year, 2 guys that we never thought we'd ever really see get in, because we never thought they'd be clean enough to accept, and they went through the DDP stuff, and that really worked out. So I'll be throwing up the click sign. Kevin Nash gets announced on Monday. I'm all fired up, and we'll see what goes on down the road. So peace out, everybody. See you guys. Talk some more Hall of Fame in a little bit.